Ole Miss gets the last shot at an elite quarterback prospect.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well, bringing you the best coverage of Rebels football, basketball, and baseball as well. Today, we're talking about Landon Duckworth setting his official visits. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin get the final shot to close the deal with this talented quarterback out of Jackson High School in Alabama, but they'll have to beat out some serious competition in Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida State. We'll tell you what they have to offer this young man as well. And the timing of his visit to Ole Miss kind of says a lot with Ole Miss getting the last shot, and with my surgery coming up, that means that he likely will not commit before I'm back after recovery. So that's a win-win, right? We're free and available in all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special shout out to the insiders and everydayers who make this show what it is. For your second listen, check out Chris Gordy at Locked On SEC or Corey Burton at Locked On Vandy for more SEC and college football talk. Hotty toddy, everyone. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for a stress-free taxes season and the most money back guaranteed? Head on over to TurboTax.com to get matched with your expert. So an official visit came out for Landon Duckworth, the quarterback out of Jackson High School, Alabama, and he listed the 4 schools that he's planning on official visits to. And those schools are Ole Miss, Florida State, Georgia, and South Carolina. Ole Miss has the lead, in my opinion, at this point, but the other schools on this list also have a ton to offer the quarterback as well. Florida State has Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn with a Landon Duckworth-style quarterback and his ties to the state of Alabama. That should not be discounted. And the fact that Tallahassee is probably closer than most of the other schools on this list, that's probably at least going to matter. Georgia's won 2 national championships recently in the 2020s. If they're coming after you, they're going to be a serious competitor for you. Georgia's also recruiting Jared Curtis. Other targets are interested there. I do not know where Landon Duckworth sits on the hierarchy, but it's probably up pretty high. And South Carolina, where he was committed to, recently decommitted before he started the Ole Miss flurry of visits during Junior Day in February. South Carolina is always going to be in this. He was recruited by Dow Loggins, the offensive coordinator that left South Carolina for greener pastures. They're actually coordinated by Mike Shula right now. If you look at the timing of this, his first visit is to the Georgia Bulldogs. That is at the end of May. That's May 30th to June 1st. Then he goes to South Carolina the next weekend. Then he goes to Florida State the next weekend. And then he's scheduled to be at Ole Miss June 20th through the 22nd. He's the number 6 quarterback in 2026. This is from Hayes Fawcett from On3. The graphic was from On3 as well. Listen, this is a high-level quarterback. On3 has him as the lowest ranked of all the services quarterbacks in the 2026 class. Consensus-wise, he's a top 53 player. He's number 53 in the country, the number 6 quarterback overall, and in Alabama, the number 4 player overall. On3 has him at 122. 247 has him at 47. ESPN has him as 119. Rivals has him at 29. This is a really high-level, good prospect that is going to help out any team that he goes to, and it makes no wonder that Ole Miss is going all in on this quarterback. What is his timeline? Well, in an article a couple of weeks ago to Chad Simmons of On3, he says, if I'm ready to commit before the season, I want to, but if not, I will wait, Duckworth said. What's important to me is the atmosphere at the school, the way the coaches treat me, and how the offense is in the background of the coaches and their development. This is a very big year potentially for Ole Miss and Jackson Dart. If Jackson Dart goes midway up through the first round, this is going to help them out quite a bit, because as quarterback friendly as the offense has been to people during the Lane Kiffin tenure, Ole Miss hasn't had that first round draft pick. He hasn't had that card to play for future generation quarterbacks. And if Jackson Dart gets drafted, let's say number 21 or something to Pittsburgh, that would probably carry a good bit of water through the recruiting cycle, and especially helping somebody like this. I think Landon Duckworth is a lean to Ole Miss, and that's just a think. I don't know that for a fact, but I do know that for a while there, every time the door was open, it seemed like he was in town. And that usually matters. I know that he decommitted from South Carolina, and they're still on the list. Decommitting from a school usually matters as well. Georgia is going to always be a pie in the sky type school. And if you can get a visit to Georgia, you should take it. And Gus Malzahn in Florida State feels like that would be an interesting landing spot for the young quarterback. But Lane Kiffin offers a little bit of everything. The reason I posted that quote is that Ole Miss hit every box of what he was looking for. And there's a reason that Ole Miss has been leading this recruitment. And that is they have made him a priority. They treat him extremely well whenever he's around. And the track record for development, that's the only weak spot in their argument. And if Ole Miss gets a first-round quarterback in this NFL draft, that is going to say something. At the lowest, Ole Miss should get a second-round quarterback. But I think Ole Miss could have a quarterback in the 8, 9, 10 range the way this is going. His rise in the quarterback rankings in the weeks and months before the NFL draft is precipitous. It really is. And I think that is going to help and be the kind of the final nail in the Landon Duckworth recruitment. I think Georgia's going to try and slow play him a little bit because they're still working to try and get Jared Curtis. They really want Jared Curtis. He's the number one on their board. He is the quarterback they want. Landon Duckworth probably is intrigued by Georgia. I wouldn't be intrigued by Mike Bobo, but so be it. Like I said, Florida State, they went 2-10 last year, but the year before they went 12-0. They had a nice little jump from one season to the next. Well, nice if you're not a Florida State fan. But Gus Malzahn being there means a quarterback like Landon Duckworth has a chance to be a star. He does. Gus Malzahn knows how to use quarterbacks like that. In South Carolina, I don't know. The only game that I saw Mike Shula coach was the Citrus Bowl against Illinois, and the offense didn't look that good at all. I mean, granted, it's only one season and one offense, one game. Mike Shula didn't necessarily look up to it. So we'll see exactly how that looks as well. This is the first domino that's going to fall, and it looks like it's going to fall a little bit later on in the year than honestly Ole Miss is probably hoping, because generally a quarterback commits pretty early and then they work to build their class after that. And if they're able to do that, all of a sudden it could snowball a little bit. And Ole Miss, it was kind of hoping for that snowball to build up any little bit of extra momentum, because Duckworth has a chance to be an absolute star. He does. He has a chance to run the SEC for multiple years. And if Ole Miss gets him, it's better than everybody else getting him, because him at Georgia, him at South Carolina, him at Florida State, all of his options, he's going to do fantastic wherever he goes, because he is at that level of a talented player. So spring practice is almost here, and one Ole Miss player is starting to turn heads in the pre-spring workouts. Momentum's building for this back to make his mark. Find out who's generating the buzz next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget much smarter and save a whole lot more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finance, track spending, and even long-term plan. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal account and set goals to stay on the same page without stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off the first year. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every single week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfast, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love how Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. You know, I recently tried their Protein Plus meals, and they were packed with flavor and kept me full throughout the day. The convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. So much so, I got my brother-in-law hooked on Factor meals recently as well, and he absolutely loves them. So eat smart with Factor. Get started with factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege 50 off and use code LockedOnCollege 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnCollege 50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. All right, so this is kind of funny because I get text messages and DMs and people always that have seen practice. They might be student trainers or student managers, but they are really good at giving me, it's like, hey, you need to pay attention to this guy. This guy is really showing out right now. The whole team seems to be talking about this guy. All of those rumors, and I appreciate every single one of those. Keep those coming, by the way. But the player that is turning heads right now, besides Austin Simmons seemingly always does it just because the hype surrounding him. But Kewan Lacy, the running back out of Lancaster, Texas, transfer from Missouri, is turning heads in these pre-spring workouts. I am interested to hear what he does once people start seeing practices and seeing what he actually does, because I do want to reiterate, this is all secondhand information, and I haven't seen this with my own eyes. And generally, I trust my own eyes over everything else. But Kewan Lacy coming in, everybody assumes that Logan Diggs is going to be the starter in that room. Everybody, including myself. I've talked about it for nearly a year, wanting to get Logan Diggs on the field. And he actually flashed in the Gator Bowl. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be a nice running back option for Ole Miss 20 months or so after his surgery in fall camp. And when you have him going through a spring practice with a Kewan Lacy, you have a chance to build up a little bit of rapport between the running backs and the offensive line. Now, we're not going to know exactly what's going to happen because you know my opinion on depth charts with the spring transfer portal window. So Ole Miss isn't going to play that game. I think they're doing a Meet the Rebels on April 12th or something like that, as opposed to a spring game. And they're going to make sure that no depth chart can even be inferred in the spring practices. So what you're going to have there, A, is a chance to build a rapport with a lot of different players. You get an idea of how running backs run. You get an idea of how quarterbacks pass and receivers run routes and all of that. That is the benefit of spring practice. The fact that on defense, the rapport builds up of how things line up and in the defense and counting on those individual things moving into the fall. Kewan Lacy is a guy that they love. They absolutely love. The one thing that I keep hearing over and over again is how much Lane Kiffin and Kevin Smith loves Kewan Lacy and did during the whole purpose of his recruitment. We talked with Walker Jones on Monday, and he talked a little bit about how the recruitment went all the way down to the end. Something weird happened. I'm not saying anything nefarious, but something happened. Ole Miss didn't get him. He ended up going to Missouri, or Caleb Odom to Alabama or something like that. But they transferred back. which means likely in their heart of heart, they knew that Ole Miss was the place to begin with. Kewan Lacy at Missouri didn't have the best numbers. Just 23 carries, 104 yards. Rumor is out of Missouri, he struggled a bit pass blocking. Don't know if that's true, but that was the rumor that came out and people dropped that to me. And that's the reason he wasn't on the field and upperclassmen were. So fine. So spring practice could be an opportunity for Kewan Lacy to shore up that because he's going to get a lot of reps in spring with a Logan Diggs and a Kewan Lacy. Shakai Mills-Knight is not in town yet. So those are the two main ones. Jordan Simmons is in town as well as Dominic Thomas with an injury to Trey Hall and without Shakai Mills-Knight. That means that Kewan Lacy, without a depth chart, is going to get more reps than he would have before. So Kewan Lacy has a chance to take a major step going into fall. In fact, I would go as far as say that Kewan Lacy has a chance to almost wrap up the number one back in fall. And everybody's going to point out Logan Diggs. Everybody's going to point out Shakai Mills-Knight. And I will just talk to you and remind you that Zach Evans came in at Ole Miss. And by the end of the year, Zach Evans was backing up Quinshon Judkins. This staff, whether it be Kevin Smith or Lane Kiffin, is going to play the right guy who they think can run their stuff. And you're not going to be in the game if you don't pass block. You're not going to be in the game if you can't make plays whenever they call outside zone, inside zone. You're not going to be in the game if you can't catch the ball. They need a good all-around running back, and Kewan Lacy will fit that bill if he develops this spring. This is a big spring for him. But leading up to spring practice, which is less than a week away, people have been talking about Kewan Lacy. I'm getting messages on the repeat about what he's doing in pre-spring. And I'm curious to see what happens. If anything's open in spring practice, you can count on somebody being on this podcast channel that has laid eyes on the Ole Miss player, whether it's Michael Katz or Sam Hutchins or Dalen Flowers. Those guys will be around, and if something's open, they'll be able to step in and talk about what they've seen. I've got it set up right now to where guys should come on the day after practice every single day. They're going to practice Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I'm trying to set it up to where we get people on Friday or Wednesday, Friday, and on Sunday. And if we do that, we can talk about practice and build about what's coming up. I'm excited about the running back position. Everybody's assuming Logan Diggs is going to take a step. And 20 months after an ACL injury, yes, he'll probably be back to his normal self and playing ball like everybody thinks he can. But I'm curious about a Kewan Lacy and the step that he can take as a running back. I'm curious about Shakai Mills-Knight once he gets into campus. Caleb Cunningham, once they get in on campus, what they can do as well. If they can handle what's going on and the workload of a true freshman, they have a chance to be pretty special. Shakai Mills-Knight, 220 pounds. He was a starting running back in the Navy All-American Bowl. And just so y'all know, that used to be the Army All-American. That's the San Antonio All-American Bowl. So that'll be big to see what happens there. But the point of this is Ole Miss has brought in people that they really like. They really like all of these players. They missed every single evaluation a year ago. Every single one of them. This year, they were much more methodical, going on some people that they have more long-term relationships with, that have Power 4 experience, that signed with Power 4 schools. Even Jordan Simmons, who transferred from like Akron, originally is from Michigan State. That's a Big Ten school. So Ole Miss is being very intentional what's going on. Kewan Lacy, Missouri. Logan Diggs, Notre Dame and LSU. Ole Miss is being very intentional on the running back position. Last year, they signed a running back from Georgia State, one from, I think, Miami of Ohio. They went the mid-major route, which sometimes works very well. I'm not saying there's not great players at the mid-major route, but Ole Miss is being very intentional with what they're doing at the running back position, and it seems to be paying off right now with Kewan Lacy. We'll have to check that out whenever they start practicing. So Ole Miss takes the court today in the SEC tournament, officially kicking off their March Madness journey, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. We got your tournament breakdown coming up next. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. You know, taxes, it was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching up with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return. All the while, you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every single deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with the TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only on the iOS mobile app. And see guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. Ole Miss gets the Arkansas Razorbacks today in SEC tournament action. And Ole Miss is in a great position to where there's no more schedule bomb, because if South Carolina would have gotten through, there was a chance of at least a quad 2 loss, that Ole Miss doesn't have really anything on their resume except for a loss to Mississippi State at home. That's the number 34 team in the country. That's their lone quad 2 loss. So Ole Miss needed Arkansas to win. Ole Miss fans should have been rooting for Arkansas to win. And now you have the Arkansas Razorbacks to where it's a quad 1 game. One way or another, Ole Miss is kind of locked in that 6-7 seed line that we've talked about earlier, going on in the Joe Lunardi and all the NCAA brackets and things like that. So Ole Miss getting the Arkansas Razorbacks in the NCAA tournament, or the SEC tournament, I should say, is a pretty good thing for them. I think there's some keys for the game. I think that Ole Miss needs to attack the rim early and often. This is very much a Malik Dia, Dre Davis game. Arkansas is only playing a 7-man rotation right now. So if you can attack the rim and get foul trouble and force a little bit of stress on that bench, I think you can affect that game a little bit. Second, be competitive, like always, on the boards against Arkansas on Thursday. If you lose the rebounding battle by 10 plus, you're going to struggle to win the game. If you can keep it close and not turn the ball over, you're going to likely win the game. And 3, play another clean game and don't allow and force Arkansas into a frantic pace due to a lack of depth. Don't allow their lack of depth to work for them. Make them have to earn this win by playing a clean game themselves. Force the issue in that situation, so maybe you can get some foul trouble in this game against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, if you look at players to watch, like I said, Malik Dia and Dre Davis, big player, and Matthew Morrell is always the X factor for the Ole Miss Rebels, no matter what's going on, because of his ability on the field and what he means to the team. Ole Miss has 6 players averaging in double figures right now, which that's an obscene record to think about anyway, but they have that. Malik Dia and Dre Davis, they're going to have to counteract Adu and Traven Brazil and those guys on the front court for Arkansas. I think Big Z is out there as well. It's going to be imperative that Malik Dia, who had a big game the last time these two teams met, and Dre Davis needs to step up as well. They're going to be big in forcing fouls on the opponent. They're going to be big in just about all aspects. Sean Padula, he's kind of a heartbeat of this team. For this game to even be close for Ole Miss, Sean Padula needs to be Sean Padula. Dre Davis and Malik Dia and Matthew Morrell is going to determine if Ole Miss takes a step in this game for the Rebels. I think a score prediction for this game, Ole Miss 74, Arkansas 66. I think Arkansas's legs starts to wear out. They have such a short bench. Ole Miss having a frantic pressure. I think they need to make them run. They need to make them move. If they can do that and make them defend, they have a chance to wear down the Arkansas Razorbacks. And if Ole Miss shoots pretty well, I think they can beat anybody in the conference. Maybe not named Florida, maybe not named Florida. So Ole Miss 74, Arkansas 66. This tournament is just a tournament, though. We talked going into it about John Calipari saying this tournament did not matter. all of the talking heads that own this tournament and own the rights to it, they're talking about how absurd he is. But the reality is this tournament doesn't matter. The real tournament is based on next week. And with Ole Miss locked into a seed line around 6 or 7, potentially they're in a position to where they might be looking forward a little bit as well. Now, Chris Beard in his pre-SEC tournament press conference talked about how this team feels a little bit disrespected, that this team is going up to Nashville with a chip on their shoulder. Okay, I'm fine to see exactly what that looks like. But to Ole Miss fans, I tell you, if Ole Miss goes up to goes one and done against Arkansas, do not freak out, because the NCAA tournament is the only thing that matters right now, and there's almost nothing negative that can happen to Ole Miss right now in an Arkansas game in the SEC tournament. Really interesting stuff. We'll see exactly what it looks like. Anyway, we are 3 days away from Bracket Breakdown, and Bracket Breakdown will be on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. If you have an Amazon Fire TV, you are well familiar with that. And Amazon is going to be broadcasting a bracket breakdown show for the men's and women's tournament that will feature 34 both virtual and recorded in studio episodes on this NCAA tournament, featuring the host and the talent of Locked On. They also brought in some outside analysts like Gordon Hayward that's going to be sitting in. And they've rented out a studio basically at the Tegna station in Dallas, Texas, and built a studio, a bunch of LED stuff. It looks really cool. You're going to see my site populating with information over the course of the tournament. It's going to go into our shorts reel. There's going to be some regular videos that go in. They're going to have some neat stuff, and you might see yours truly on the Ole Miss segments on the broadcast. So the further Ole Miss goes, the more likely it is that you're going to be seeing me populating everywhere around the internet. Our goal at this channel is to feel like we're everywhere, and it feels like we're close to accomplishing that goal. Pretty much if you search anything online, you see it come up. And now it's gotten to the point where you're just seeing social media popping up everywhere. We are dominating social media marketing right now. And we're going to change and add platforms as this continues to grow. And Amazon's another opportunity for the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. And we're already being distributed out to the Tegna television stations. And we are going to take another couple of steps as fast program. And of course, there's an app that is on the way for us as well. So stick around for that. It should be really, really cool of what's coming. Needless to say, by this football season, it could be interesting of where things line up. So stick around for that. I do want to thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the #1 Ole Miss podcast out there. Your support means the world to us. We are the Ole Miss Morning Show, and that makes us exciting. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. March is here, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Howdy toddy, everyone, and remember, analytics is just the old English word meaning bad basketball. We'll see you tomorrow.